If you've spent any time looking online for homes to buy, there's a good chance you've been on Redfin.com. Most of the people I asked say they've used the Redfin website, but had no idea Redfin was a full-service real estate brokerage. Well, not only is Redfin a full-service brokerage, they are setting a new standard of service across the real estate industry. Every month, I sit down with a few local Redfin agents for what we call the Redfin Roundtable. Your sneak peek of that conversation is coming up next, commercial-free, right here on Smarter San Diego, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else. Check it out. Okay, guys. So this is kind of an interesting point in the marketplace right now where I'm starting to see people go on both sides of the fence. Some people think the market's going to cool off. Some people think it's going to heat up. So we decided to go ahead and do a poll on smartersandiego.com, which is still open, by the way. You can make your voice heard, smartersandiego.com. So far, it's been pretty divided between whether or not people think the real estate market in San Diego will stay flat for the rest of the year, the second half of 2015, will cool off, or will heat up. Sean Cahan, what say you?
I don't know on a global basis. I think that my personal business always picks up in the third and fourth quarter of
Really?
every single year. Over the last 11 years, my best quarter has always been my fourth quarter.
Huh.
So maybe I'm just trying to cram everything in before the end of the year for my numbers. I'm not really sure. But or maybe on the mortgage side, we try to do that. So I'm not sure exactly where the rates and everything are going to go with like refinance. I know the refinance boom is kind of, it's actually slowed down quite a bit from the original first quarter. But there's a lot of purchases going on right now too. So
yeah, so you would vote for heat up?
I would vote for heat up.
He's going to vote for heat up. We have one vote for heat up right away. And so far, only 30% of people have voted for heat up, which is the least. 32% have said it's going to cool off. And the other 38% of people said it's going to be flat. Uncle Jordan, what say you?
I'm going to go with the majority. I'm going to say flat.
Flat?
Flat. I said at the beginning of the year,
That's
in
true.
January, I said that this year is going to be deja vu all over again. So it's going to be the same thing that happened last year. And last year, we saw a lot of increase in the first half of the year, and then things just flat for the rest of the year. So I think it's going to happen again. I see a lot of buyers out there just a little bit upset at the market. A little upset at a lot of these sellers that are coming on the market that are priced too high. Inventory is really low right now, and it seems for a lot of my buyers that a lot of things that they're interested in, they're just overpriced. Even just based upon a comparable from a few months ago, these sellers are seeming to be a little bit greedy right now, and my buyers aren't biting.
Huh. They're not biting. Do they think that it'll get better? Because, what happens if it gets worse? That's kind of what happened in the last boom.
They're confident that these sellers will have to get realistic and come back down. Not like the prices are going to drop, but they're going to stay where they very close to the last comparable.
Okay. Willie Wilson, what do you think?
You know what? I agree with a lot of Jordan's points. I'm not feeling that sense of urgency right now from a lot of the clients and a lot of buyers that I'm working with right now. So it seems like a year or two ago, everybody was just in this flurry, and it was like you just got to get in there and get something. And now I'm looking at homes that maybe aren't upgraded or as a nice location, and now my clients are saying, you know what, I'm going to just wait it out a little bit. I'll wait it out, and we'll see if something comes up on the market. So my prediction, I feel like we're starting to cool off a little bit.
Cool off.
Definitely.
Okay, wow. We've got one of each. Cherie, you're the tiebreaker here.
I am going to agree with Jordan, actually.
Okay.
And it's kind of funny. We met at the beginning of the year, and we had complete opposite opinions.
I know. It was funny.
Yeah. And Jordan won. We saw a lot of appreciation at the first half of this year, and I agree. I think it's going to resemble a lot of what happened last year and the year before that, actually. The appreciation in the first half, and then kind of just flattening out throughout the rest of the year. I work on the listing side, so my perspective is a little bit different than working on the buy side. My listings aren't getting the multiple offers that they were getting before. They aren't selling the first weekend that they're going on the market. Just the past few weeks, I've started to notice that things are sitting a little bit longer. Buyers are taking a little bit more time writing offers, and things aren't selling over asking. So
You know, that's true. You and I talked about your listing over in Solana Beach,
Mm-hmm.
which looks like it should have flown off the shelf already.
it sold.
Did it sell?
But,
Did
yeah.
you sell it?
Yeah.
No, I'm representing her sellers purchasing another
Yeah.
property, but actually another
We're working together on
Okay.
it. Yeah.
another Redfin agent has representing the buyer purchasing
Okay.
it.
It sold.
Okay, well, see, then we were right.
But it took what, a month and a half?
Month and a half.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
But it's not as quickly
Right?
as things were going before.
That's not bad. Well, I mean, we were just, you were kind of thinking, and I was thinking too, this thing people should be all over this.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a 2-bedroom in Solana Beach, awesome views, great complex. And it was,
Under 550.
yeah, it was like 535 or something like that. I mean, and it was the only one in that price range in the entire area.
West of the 5, it was
West
the
of the
only
5.
number.
The only dot is the only, if you're on redfin.com and you're searching, that was all you would see is that one right there. And I just couldn't believe that it didn't have the multiple offers and whatnot. But that does tell us something. Like, there's a buyer out there, but maybe the frenzy is cooling off just a tad. And in all fairness, when we did those predictions at the beginning of the year, I think you just had an interesting week or two. We caught you at just the right time where you were like, you know what? It doesn't, I think, because a couple weeks later I talked to you and you go, no, I think those guys were right.
Yeah.
It started
It's
heating
heating
up.
up,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's heated up. So, in all fairness, I think that it's tough in a snapshot to be able to say, hey, here's what's going to be happening. But this poll I thought was interesting because we are divided, and even here in this room we're divided. I think cool off. So we're very divided, even in this room, which tells us something that's different in this marketplace that hasn't been the case. I mean, everyone's been saying it's been on fire all year, and it really has. But if people are starting to get the idea now that that's changing, and maybe it's cooling off, or maybe it's flattening out, then I think that does tell us something. Speaking of which, I got an indication. Now, I'm on redfin.com all the time. Sean, you know this. You guys know this. This is how I search for properties. This is how I keep track of marketplaces. I favorite properties, and then it tells me everything that happens with those properties, whether it's a price decrease, a price increase, which I experienced this week, or if it goes pending, or if it closes, and it tells you all the information. In fact, I got a notification on one today that sold, and it sold for about $10,000 less than the list price. Now, that was in Ramona, and it had been on the market for a few months, so not too crazy, but starting to see that more often now, where these homes are closing at under the list price, where for quite a while I saw nothing but at list, slightly above list was all I was seeing. So that does kind of tell us something too. But I got a notification of a price increase. The first time I've ever seen that. Now, this is no offense to Carlsbad. I like Carlsbad, but it's a 2-bedroom condo in Carlsbad, okay? And nothing special about it. So I didn't understand why there was a price increase on this property. Well, come to find out, looking further into it, there wasn't a price increase. The agent who listed the property had simply just changed it from being a certain price to being a range around that price, meaning that price was in the middle. So they listed it at, I can't remember exactly, let's call it $515, and then they changed to a range from $499 to $529, something like that. But I got the notification that the price had gone up from $515 to $529. Now, I haven't seen anyone do that on a property that's been on the market for a month or more, but I understand now that that's just what happens through the website. So if people get those types of notifications, it doesn't necessarily mean that the price has gone up. Is that right, Cherie?
That's right. So when you're looking on sites other than the MLS, it doesn't show you that it's actually in a price range. It shows you only the high end. So Redfin, Trulia, Zillow, Realtor.com. There's not any way for that to be put into a range. So unless you're looking at the MLS, you don't get that notification that there is a low end of the range attached to that high end price.
And the reason for that is because San Diego's a little unique, and we're the only ones that use that value range pricing. So these national websites are like, we'll just leave them alone, and we'll just use the top price.
Yeah.
Let San Diego figure it out.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of wondered, and we've had some great real estate debates about that exact topic. In fact, let's go ahead and let's run through and see what everybody thinks about value range pricing. Sean Cahan, what do you think? Is it useful? Should it go away?
I just personally don't fully understand it, but I'll tell you that every single one of the houses that we sell always have a range.
Really?
Yeah.
And why do you do that?
I don't really choose to do that. Just the agents that I guess that I work with on selling our properties have a range on there, but I just don't understand it.
Okay, so you don't think it's necessary?
That's just my personal opinion. Yeah.
Jordan, what do you think about the value range pricing? Are we archaic here, or are we leading the charge into a new way of selling homes with the value range pricing?
No, I think it's archaic. I think it's like an auction that has a base price, a start price of $999, but the reserve is $300,000. It's why do you have it at $100,000 start bid price when you're not going to accept anything less than $300,000? And
Right.
that's what I see, and that's what I tell my clients. I'm like, forget that low price. That's just they're willing to talk to you at that point, but the real list price is the high end.
The high end or somewhere in the middle at least, right?
Yeah.
Willie, what do you think about this
I'm
value
just laughing
ranges?
about it because it's so true. It's like us agents, we do so many of these transactions. We know the drill. We know this game, right? So you see that range, and of course, what does your client want to do? They want to do about a penny over the bottom of the range. And so
Every time.
you tell them, okay, well, we can do that. And they're like, hey, it's within the range. What's the problem? And you're like, no problem, but I can tell you right now that's not going to get you the home. And sure enough, they come back and they'll counter and they'll drop a couple grand or something. So it's just a silly little dance that we all do. And it's like, you know, somebody else is playing the music. There's a DJ, and we're just kind of, you know, grooving to it.
Not on Redfin.com, though. The website doesn't groove to that dance. It says high end. What do you think, Sheree, about this value range stuff?
When my sellers want to put something in a price range, I tell them, well, and they ask my opinion. And I said, well, the buyers are going to want to be at the low end and you're going to want to be at the high end. So I think it does both parties a disservice because it sets unrealistic expectations on both sides.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, I agree.
I was told, and I'm going to just kind of cut in real quick, is that the reason that they started doing the range was because of how the MLS search came up, such as if you really wanted to sell my house for $300,000 and say that someone's capped at $285,000 on their MLS search, if I do a range of $275 to $325, it gets that individual at $275 to come up and go look at the place at $300.
But only on the MLS, not on
right.
other sites.
Correct.
It doesn't
Yeah.
pull that price range in.
So,
Yeah.
So a lot of buyers, buyers don't have access to use the MLS themselves. Only agents do.
yeah.
So a lot of buyers set up their own searches on Redfin, for instance.
Mhm.
If they put a price range, it's not going to capture it on Redfin.
Right.
Definitely.
And that's the thing that's really interesting and why, it does help, to have an agent doing some work for you on this stuff. I think a lot of times what happens now, especially on the traditional side, and not necessarily with Redfin, but a lot of times agents will just say, I put in a search, it's going to email you the properties that come in and fit the search, and let me know if you want to look at anything, But in reality, this is a good example of how, in some cases, it helps to have someone actually paying attention for you and looking at these things, someone that you can ask, instead of just counting on the website to do all the work for you, So just another example of that. I think it would be a great idea for us to talk about some of these different aspects of the Redfin technology. I think we've already covered the local market conditions pretty well, right? Predictions for 2015, we hit that well. So let's talk about the difference. Why Redfin? Why Redfin is different, Jordan?
It's transparent. We try to show every last little piece of information that we are legally and contractually allowed to show. We show it there because we don't want anyone. Because I remember back in the day when agents had websites and they would have prices where they wouldn't tell you, and you just say call the office, or they'd only give you like the number of bedrooms and bathrooms. If you want the square footage, call the office, and it was just like a bait and lure for you to call them. We don't want anybody to have to call anybody for you to just to get the basic and as much information as you can about the property.
Okay, so transparency.
Transparency.
I like it.
Willie?
Mr. Credit, may I tell a story?
You can.
Oh yeah,
Love it.
Willie story.
Okay, so I have a referral from a past client. They've become good friends of mine, and I meet them at a house the other day. It's over in Vista in the mid-500s, and we head into this house, and I can tell immediately that this client, he's very analytical, right? Very analytical. He's looking around. He's taking a look, and we've got the whole entourage. We've got the mother-in-law, 3 kids, the wife. I mean, it's a zoo. But I'm kind of following him around because I can see the wheels turning, and so he looks at me, and he says, Willie, I can't believe I'm going to tell you this right now. And I go, what's up? He goes, I love this house. I want it. Let's get it. And I'm like, wow, because I could tell. I mean, this is one of those guys that typically would be looking for a long, long time before they pull the trigger on something. And here we are. We meet at the very first house. We've only got about 10 minutes logged of knowing each other, and he's on. He wants to write this offer. So he admits to me, he goes, Willie, the reason that I'm able to do this today and make this decision is because I've been empowered, and I've been empowered by you. by Redfin because I have been searching on Redfin for 3 years. He goes, I have an Excel spreadsheet. He goes, I know this neighborhood better than the agents that work this neighborhood. And so he goes, I came with all of my ammo and all of my decision-making criteria. Let's do this.
Wow.
And so that was just amazing to me to see that. But going back to some of these past points about the old world and the old way of doing things was when you were dependent on a broker and agent to get you that information from the MLS, and then maybe if you were lucky, they'd send you a porthole link and you could look at a couple listings. Now we give everything, but you also do have to have the agent, because then he turns around, looks at me, and goes, "Now that I picked the house, though, I'm scared, frightened. I don't know what to do next." And I said, "Well, that's why you have me," and that's the beauty of Redfin, because it's the technology and it's the marriage of your agent and a local expert that can walk you through that process, and that's an advocate for your goals there. So.
Yeah, and you make a great point, because you got to find the property, obviously, but then that when you find one that you like, that doesn't mean that it's done. You're just beginning the process now to actually get the property. In fact, that's where a good mortgage plan comes in play, Sean Cahan, because at that point, I hope that guy is pre-approved, pre-underwritten, and ready to go, because if he really wants to get that house, he's going to need to write an offer and be ready to execute on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
You agree?
Pre-approvals are. There's so many. I mean, there's so many pre-approvals that are. Oh, hey, I do a lot of cross qualifying on the listing side. I know a lot of people dislike it because it's like kind of a pain for the buyer. I always just ask, hey, let me talk to your loan officer directly, and just have them send me over the paperwork. They can white out, black out their social security numbers. I'm not interested in that. I'm just trying to make sure. And 60% of the time, I'm like, hey, I need the income and the assets. They're like, oh, we haven't collected that yet.
Wow.
I'm like, well, how was your pre-approval? Well, I took an application. I ran the credit. All right. Well, that has nothing to do with anything. So please let me have your borrower's contact information so that I can get in touch with them. I do have a conversion of over 40% actually that switch over to using me. And it's just kind of like whenever my pre-approvals go out, I verified all their income, all their assets. I even do their LOEs of, addresses, inquiries, every single thing that I'm going to actually need for my underwriting. And then within 72 hours, 48 hours, the appraisal is ordered, 72 hours, the loan's already in processing. And then by day 5, the loan's already in underwriting. So it's just kind of like how you set it up makes a huge difference on your guys' side too, right? And so I think that working with a proper loan originator that actually takes it as a job, takes it, their personal, I guess, career path, and make sure that every single, I is dotted and their T's are crossed is very important, because that's how it stops all the, oh, this came up in underwriting, I didn't know about it.
Yeah, and I've seen that too, actually, a lot, because I have a lot of properties favored on Redfin.com. So I see when they back on the market, buyer couldn't perform. I mean, I see that. That's when I see a property that's back on the market, buyer couldn't perform. And what that means is that they probably didn't qualify for the loan. They probably got a bad pre-approval. And when the rubber met the road, they were unable to get the property. And Willie can't make magic happen. I mean, he can from
sometimes.
Sometimes I say that, and I realize I shouldn't say that, because he does make magic happen all the time. But you can't wave a magic wand and turn someone who's unapproved into an approved borrower. Now, a guy like that, from your story, he probably did his own pre-approval or something like that. I mean, he's been looking at the market for 3 years with Excel spreadsheets to find the right house.
You know what's crazy is actually, so once we started opening up the conversation, he didn't. We wasn't really ready. I mean, he was, like he said, he's like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is it. So we were able to turn around a quick pre-approval. We have some good lenders that we work with, and we ended up beating an all cash offer out as well.
Ooh, wow.
And the cover letter, the good old cover letter, came in and played a huge part. And it's funny because the referral that this gentleman came from, those clients, I wrote an offer for them about a year and a half ago, and we were in a multiple bidding war, and we wrote an offer, and the sellers left $15,000 on the table to take my clients. $15,000. They said there was something about your client's letter that resonated with me, and they said, we remember being a young couple, and we could have really used a break when we bought our first home, and they had lived in the home for 30 years and raised their family, so my clients won that house. And so here they are a year and a half later, they're referring their really good friend, and so he hits me up. He goes, hey, so I heard that cover letter really works, and I'm like, whoa. Let's not get too excited, all right? I mean, it does, but you know what? It actually did. It worked really well with these guys. The listing agent was selling the place for her brother, and they really wanted a family. And so the whole thing comes together. But again, we don't necessarily work magic, but we do as an agent. That's what we do, is we pull all of this together and we wrap it up in a nice package, put a bow on it, and get that house for our clients.
We got to come up with something different to call it other than a cover letter, because this is not a cover letter. Cover letter
We
makes
call it a seller love letter.
a love letter.
A love letter.
Seller love letter. I like that better, because it's not just a cover letter, a piece of paper that goes on there and says, hey, this is our offer. That's not what it is. It's an actual, it's like a love letter. It's like, hey, this is who we are. This is our family. This is why we want to buy your home. And here, by the way, here's all of our qualifications and whatnot. And it's all packaged up together.
Yep.
So that's more like an informational, real estate love packet, other than a cover letter. What were you gonna say, Jordan?
A home buyer CV.
Home buyer CV.
Yeah, like a personal the package that you put together when you're trying to apply for a job or anything else. A CV that shows that everything.
Is that a Canadian
I
word?
was just gonna say.
You never heard
What
of
does that mean?
It's a CV.
I've never heard of this in my life.
They have them at the hockey games.
Like a resume?
You read my mind.
I say some things occasionally, and everyone else is like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
It just reminds us that you're from Canada. That's all. Canada.
Citizen now, though.
Yeah, that's
Citizen.
true. He's legit. He's legit. So
Can't kick me out.
nobody. We never wanted to, Jordan. Trust me. Cherie, it took us a while, but why do you think Redfin's different? What's great?
I love that we work in teams. When I take on a client, that I will handhold that client through their entire real estate transaction process. But at the same time, we have a big team and force working behind us. Redfin is a technology-driven industry. We have a huge team of engineers working up in our headquarters office. We have another marketing team that helps to bring to life our beautiful listing materials. We have associate agents out in the field, buy side, list side. They can show homes at any time. You're standing in front of a house and want to get out there and see it. We have somebody that can get you in the door right away.
And in fact, we have Book It Now.
We have Book It Now, so you can log on and you can choose which agent you want to tour with, and you can go out and see it at the time that you want to see it, at no cost or obligation to you. And then once we're in the escrow process, we have a transaction coordinator that helps us with all of the paperwork and everything to keep the whole process streamlined. So I really love the team atmosphere that Redfin provides, and we make it nice and simple and easy for our customers to buy and sell a home.
Redfin really does operate like a franchise.
Mm-hmm.
It really does, versus kind of a mom and pop shop. It's more, it operates like a franchise. And when you say transaction coordinator, we actually need to come up with a new term for that too, because I think when people think TC or transaction coordinator, they assume it's someone who's just kind of moving things along
They're
and
our
whatnot.
partners.
But
They are our partners.
But this is a lot more than that. I mean, I've heard from the escrow companies and the people who are actually in charge of making sure all this paperwork gets done, that doing deals with Redfin is so easy, because these people who we're calling transaction coordinators are actually handling the whole thing. They are so ahead of the game and so on top of it that the people who are typically supposed to be on top of it are like, we just kind of just listen to them and just take their cues. So now I'm an outsider. I don't know what the inside of that looks like, but that's the feedback I've heard, that when you get into a deal with Redfin, it closes itself, basically. That's the feedback. Mm-hmm. So that's good for you guys.
True.
Sean, I don't know if you've had any experience. You've bought a lot of properties in San Diego. You've sold a lot of properties in San Diego. Continue to be an investor, top mortgage producer. Have you been in a transaction with Redfin.com yet?
Yes. With one of your guys' friends, Baker.
Charles
Charles Baker.
Charles in charge.
It didn't end up. I mean, it was great working with him and all that, so it was wonderful. I mean, I got a couple team loan assistants or production, so they kind of do like the day-to-day transactions, just like a TC, yeah, I mean, I would for sure that I've done a couple deals with Redfin.
So here's what I would like to do for you right now. Since you're a guy who buys a lot of property, sells a lot of property, I want to give our Redfin agents the opportunity to sell you on why you should give their services a shot. And the next time you're buying or selling a property, especially on the sell side, since you don't necessarily understand the value range thing, and they don't really subscribe to it either. Jordan, let's start with you on the buy side. What's a reason that someone like Sean or anyone should use Redfin to buy a property?
Well, Sean, you're a very busy person, I'm presuming, and it's difficult to try to arrange your schedule to go out there and take a look at a property, right? And so when you're trying to schedule it with someone else, an agent that is also busy, it can be hard. So you make call on a Friday and say that you want to see a property on a Saturday. And if that agent is busy, he's probably already got some appointments for that day. And it might be hard to get you in to go see that property with that agent. Well, at Redfin, we work on teams. So you're not just getting me when you're working with me, you're getting a whole team. And so even though I won't be there for all of your appointments, we have a team that is going to be there, and we communicate seamlessly. So you call on Friday and you want to see a property on Saturday. If I'm not available, someone from my team is going to be there and make sure that you get into that property, because that's the most important thing. Even though this market has slowed down from what it used to be, it's still fast, and getting you in as quickly as possible at your convenience is the most important thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Nice.
And they will make it happen. And you can do it right on. You can book it right online, in fact.
I like
Willie Wilson, why should Sean use Redfin next time he wants to buy a property?
So I'll use the word expertise, but I use that loosely because, you know, the word expert, or the definition of that, can be subjective, right? But if you look at the volume, you look at the amount of, let's just call it practice, that Redfin real estate agents get, because we do a whole lot of transactions. The average real estate agent nationally does 6 to 8 transactions per year. That's a successful real estate agent. At Redfin, I can tell you that I'm in the middle of the pack, and I did about 32 transactions last year. And I'm in the middle of the pack. I mean, there were some agents in our office that are up in the high 50, 60 range. So I use this example sometimes when I'm speaking with clients, and I say it's like this. Okay, so you go to the doctor, and you're going to have, let's say, a knee surgery. And you look at the doctor, and you say, hey, doc, how many times have you done this exact particular surgery? And he goes, I do those, maybe 3 or 4 a year. Okay, great. You go to the next doctor and you say, hey, doc, I'm going to have the surgery on my knee. How often do you do the surgery? He says, I do about 3 or 4 of those a month. Who are you going to go with?
Yeah.
So that's us.
Very good.
You look
Very
at a
good
Redfin
analogy.
real estate agent,
like
and you say, hey, you know what? How many offers have you written? Oh, I've written about 5 this week and got 2 accepted, and I'll probably do 3 or 4 this month. That to me feels real good if I'm entrusting someone, right? I mean, this is one of the largest decisions I'm ever going to make. So I want that guy or gal to really know what they're doing and have a very sharp pencil.
Yeah, I like that. And neither one of them, neither one of them went to the easiest piece, which is it's going to cost you less. There's a commission refund. Depending upon the size of the property, you're going to get cash money in hand at closing right back as a part of the refund. So the value goes much beyond that, obviously, but that's one of the big pieces that is appealing to people, because you got to furnish a new house, a lot of times, and that's expensive. Cherie, when Sean is ready to list his next property, why should he use Redfin?
We are customer service based, so we aren't paid on a commission, we're paid on a salary. When we close on a transaction, we are incentivized by doing a good job for you. So our goal is to make sure that you're happy. So at the end of a transaction, Redfin will send you a survey, and they'll ask you, would you recommend us to your family and friends? And based on that response, we're given a bonus. That bonus is tied to your list price. So the more we sell, the higher we sell it for, the more the bonus. So we're incentivized to get you the most money possible too. But it takes that, I need to make a paycheck. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to cut corners, or
Accept
feed
whatever
my
offer.
family. Yeah, accept whatever, or push. We don't allow dual agency, so we're not going to try and get more commission by double ending on a transaction. So I love that we're customer service based. I've been with the company for 4 years now, and I don't intend on going anywhere, but that's what makes me feel good every day when I am home with my family.
You've got your incentives in the right place, and oh, by the way, it's cheaper as well. I know I keep going back.
1.5% to list your home.
It's the cherry on top.
I keep going back to it,
Yeah.
but
1.5%.
1.5%.
What do you guys feel about iPay1 coming back on the market?
It's different. I mean, I would imagine that they're not going to come with a whole backbone of employees supporting their company and helping to sell your product. We're not a discount brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
We are a full service brokerage.
Okay.
So you're not having to do your own legwork, to do your own negotiating. We do everything. You get the same service you get with a traditional agent and more. So I don't know about iPay1, but we're definitely not a discount brokerage.
yeah,
Oh, cool.
I don't think you can compare them. I mean, they're not even both fruits, much less, apples.
Well, the
So-
reason I brought that up was
Yeah.
just because iPay 1 is coming back into the market right now.
That's crazy.
And after their meltdown in 2007 or 8 or
Yeah.
whatever that was, and so when you said 1.5%, I just wanted your guys' take kind of like on that and what you guys feel about that.
Honestly, I haven't even seen them. Haven't
Yeah.
even heard that.
I haven't heard them either,
Yeah.
but I remember them from back in the day, in the heyday when they were coming out. And they were huge. I mean, they were sponsoring all sorts of crazy stuff. They're everywhere. Then all of a sudden, it was just like gone, just
Yeah.
vanished.
Mortgage.
Yeah, the mortgage meltdown was bad.
Mortgage took them out.
Yeah. It's tough. It's a tough thing. Well, and not only do you get all these services, but also with Redfin, there is a lot of data because it is a technology company. And in fact, that's what we're going to talk about next. If you're sufficiently sold on Redfin at this point, Sean.
I like it.
Okay,
Yeah.
he likes it.
I'm in.
He's in. All right, that's what we needed. So it's the Redfin market tracker data. And this comes now. The thing that I like about your data is that it's consistent. So we see a lot of different sources. If you read the paper or you look in these different places, you say, oh, well, this, these guys said this and these guys said that. Santa Clara said this. And then it's always a matter of, are they including attached homes? Is it, have they excluded mobile homes? What is the actual data here? And you guys are consistent with your data. So I think it's nice to be able to use it as a benchmark. If you're trying to track the market, you can use the Redfin market data for that. Jordan, let's start with you. Give us some data from the Redfin market tracker.
Well, the median sale price right now is $484,750 as of June in San Diego. That's up 3.1% month over month and 6.5% year over year. However, I gotta say my personal feeling, I think, because it can be skewed. Data can be skewed, whether or not there's more expensive properties or less expensive properties selling at any given time. So when you take averages over the whole and not over a specific price point or anything else, it can be skewed one way or the other. I would say over where the largest median number of sales occur in the market, I say that we're up about 11% year over year.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Do you think it's actually the numbers are higher than this?
Yeah, you should see the things that I've seen sell up in
You should see
Encinitas
the
and-
things that I've seen. I'm from Canada, man.
up in Encinitas and Carlsbad, a property that last year at this time sold for around $650 is now selling for around $720, $730.
I've seen some of that too. Willie, what do you got? Market data.
Yeah, I don't really do numbers. I'm here for the stories.
Okay.
So I'm going to defer numbers over. No, I don't have the.
You don't have the numbers?
The tracking in front of me, but
Okay.
maybe one of my cohorts here can.
I bet Cherie does.
So I do. Inventory is down month over month, and it is down just about 0.5%, but it is down over 16% year over year.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, so it's still low. It continues to be low. When is it going to increase? That's the crystal ball question.
Yeah. And the
So-
real inventory in my mind, which I take out all the sellers that are just overpriced and been sitting there for 2 months, I feel that the number of sellers that are like that is way higher than it was this time last year. So I say that the real inventory has probably dropped
even
down
less.
25% from last year.
Wow.
Jordan, where do you get these numbers
I
from?
know.
That's just my personal feeling. That one's my personal feeling.
He did preface with that. He's just but I agree. I see the same thing. I look at President like, well, there's no way anybody's going to get that, for that. And you wonder, is this person really interested in selling their home?
Yeah.
They may not be. But
Yeah.
you can put a home on the MLS without having a motivation to sell.
I mean, I ran into that.
Yeah.
And I have not run into that this entire year. And we got an appraisal and it came in $40,000 less on a $400,000 purchase. So
Wow, really?
right?
10%.
And I'm saying, okay, guys, where did we start here, and why are we in this transaction at $400,000? I never speak up, but this is a large difference. And so it was. Well, the initial offer went over at $360,000. That's what we wanted it at, and the listing agent just said no, and it was a VA. So we did Tidewater Initiative, we did everything, and even after the listing agent gave them all the supporting data where she came up with their information, it still came in $40,000 less. So to kind of speak on real buyers or real sellers, I think that, and they just decided to cancel. And my buyer actually said, hey, I'll pay $20,000 over appraised value.
They
Let's
still
meet
said
in the
no.
middle. And their agent, I guess, convinced the seller to say no.
The
It was-
agent convinces us.
Unbelievable. These things happen.
Or don't know if it was agent per se, but that was the feedback that we received. And so, on a mortgage side, I normally don't even whatever. We just move on to the next per se. If people don't make an agreement, it's not the end of the world. But this was just one of those ones that stuck out because it was such a large.
You threw your pen down. You were like,
I
all
was like-
right,
I was
I'm
like,
calling
"Come on, you
someone. I'm calling somebody.
This was just way too far off.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. Well, all
Yeah.
sorts of things like this happening in the marketplace. Great information from all of our guests today. Of course, you can find out more about the Redfin market tracker data on redfin.com. You can search properties there, of course, and check out the blog, too, while you're there. There's a lot of really good information there that's local to San Diego that you can find out on redfin.com. Big thanks to our Redfin agents in studio today. Cherie Bray, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Appreciate your time. Willie Wilson,
Yes, sir. Thank
thank
you.
you so much. Great story, as always. Uncle Jordan?
Thank you very much for having me.
He's still on the coffee, I think, right? I think you said it in like 0.7 seconds.
He was ready for it.
Yeah, and of course, our mortgage expert, Sean Cahan with Cornerstone Mortgage Group. Sean, thank you so much for being here today, man.
Thanks.
Really appreciate us giving us the mortgage angle on things as we continue to make you smarter than everyone else right here on Smarter San Diego. Commercial-free content just for you. Stick around.